First guest with us here in the studio, Dr. Milad, the Professor of International Relations. Dr. Momtaz, good evening. Thank you, as always, for being with us here on Nile TV.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Momtaz, we're still talking about Egypt's diplomacy, Cairo at the heart of regional and global change. Now, over the past weeks, Egyptian diplomacy has been very active, really, at the highest of levels, the presidential level, the level of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a series of engagements with international leaders, visits, them coming to us here, not only leaders, but peace envoys and leaders of different factions from different countries, reflecting Cairo's strategy indeed to remain politically engaged wherever the international order is being reshaped, and politically engaged whenever it is needed. And obviously the whole world needs Egyptian diplomacy, which always calls for peaceful and diplomatic settlement of crises. This flurry of activity, really, of diplomatic activity that we are witnessing, what does it, indicate to you?
Okay, I believe that I need to quote you first on a word that you mentioned in the question. I believe it's very essential, not only essential, it's highly needed. It's the cornerstone in everything. It's about, engagement. And my feeling, it's not only my feeling, observation, direct observation of what's been going on, especially after October 7th, that political engagement of Egypt, I think, has leverage in a very evident sense, because we've been, very closely monitoring the situation in the Middle East. And since we were talking about the last couple of weeks, or even, the last couple of days, situation in the Middle East is worsening, and it's getting more dangerous.
Fluid.
It's the word fluid, totally agree with it, okay? However, I think it's more dangerous, because the word fluid itself, politically speaking, if we break down the word fluid itself, it's extremely dangerous, because any situation in the world would require stability. And what we've been seeing in the Middle East, I think in the last 3 or 4 years, it's been deeply fluid, and even, to a very large extent. And I think so many, observers would agree with me on this, that you would feel at certain moments in time, especially the last 3 or 4 years, and even, I think I'm not exaggerating if I dated back to 2011, since the Arab Spring, or what's so called the Arab Spring. At certain moments in time, you'd feel that's about to explode. What I'm afraid of...
Things did explode. I mean,
it did explode.
It exploded in Syria, it exploded in Yemen, it exploded in Libya, it exploded in Sudan, it exploded in other areas as well. So they did explode after 2011.
They did explode, but let me actually take it in a different direction a little bit. The main anchor of stability in the Middle East, it's with all due respect to our brothers and sisters across the Middle East, you name it, but I believe the main anchor is Egypt. And that's why most countries in the world, if not all countries in the world, they've been seeking this. They've been dearly wanting Egypt to be on her feet, steadfast, strong enough, facing the turbulent situation in the Middle East. Because the other way around, would be very, very dangerous. So back to your question, about what, the balance and the ongoing, the different visits, Mr. President receiving different leaders from the region, and I think this vivid diplomacy is highly needed, because, different countries in the region, they have their own armies, but the problem to me, the very essential issue, to me is that, that going in the wrong direction, having ongoing military conflicts. And I'm wondering myself, haven't we had enough with this? Most people in the Middle East have suffered, or we have been suffering from the different conflicts in the Middle East. I think dating back to 1920s and even before 1920s. Middle East and Africa itself has been in hot tent for a very long time. People have been suffering. People have seen so many very challenges in the Middle East of all forms, in all aspects, economically, military, socially speaking. It's been very struggling to the people in the Middle East. Last couple of years, that has been heavily, intensifying. We've been seeing things drawing closely, nearing little by little, and as you said, totally agree with you once again, 2011, the Arab Spring, people suffered in the Middle East. Fires have been everywhere across the Middle East. Putting out those fires that surrounding Egypt in the Middle East, it's a very crucial challenge, not only challenges, that's not only a challenge, because it's about our own national security. I wouldn't deny this. However, on the other hand, it's about the national security of our brothers and sisters in the Middle East. We can't deny this. By the way, if you want to secure the stability of Egypt, you need to secure all other countries in the Middle East. It's very much connected. I think history has shown us, since I think in 1950 onwards, after the Second World War, that everything is very much connected in the Middle East. You can actually work in the stability of one country ignoring the stability of other countries. And that's why Egypt was very much keen. I know about Arab nationalism, in 1950 onwards, and supporting our brothers and sisters across the Middle East. For example, I'm just giving an example about, Egypt supporting Algeria, seeking its own freedom, back then, 1950s and 1960s. However, I'm talking broadly speaking about the stability of the Middle East is a very cornerstone to the stability of the entire world. I'm not exaggerating. This has been very evident to everyone in the world that you take care of the Middle East, because the Middle East is not only at the heart, geographically speaking, of the world. It's about it's a like spearhead of the different conflicts in the world, especially when we have a country like next to us, like Israel. It's very, very essential. So again, let me emphasize that the ongoing, very vivid on our side as Egypt, I think it's very much highly needed. It's very much not only highly needed, I wanted to put it or phrase it in a much deeper way. That's that everyone has been wanting Egypt to play that kind of role, receiving different leaders. Why diplomacy? Why diplomacy? I think, in our previous talks, I emphasized this, and I want to emphasize it again and again and again, that substitute to diplomacy is disastrous. No one in the world, would want to see disastrous results, not only in the Middle East, because, the shock waves, would spread out to other areas in the world. And I don't want to actually give, some examples. There are numerous examples, even the last couple of days, about, Mr. President, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, meeting and receiving different leaders, because if you look at the geography of the meetings, the geography, not the names, of course, with all due respect to all names or leaders, but I'm talking about the geography of the meetings, the geography of diplomacy. One, you could get it on the spot. That's what we mean it. We know what we're doing. For example, which leader, timing, about timing, when exactly, for example, what's been going on the last couple of weeks in Libya. It's very alarming. The fires which is being deliberately ignited, and we know it because of the external interference of some powers in the world. They wouldn't want, in my mind, some countries or some powers in the world, they don't want to see stability, real stability in the region, because they take advantage of the situation in a way or another. So they want to actually ignite fires everywhere across the Middle East, because they are directly interested in doing so in the Middle East. So my understanding goes like what? Diplomacy, this is the time for diplomacy, not the opposite, not the other way around. Because some people, they would say, haven't we had enough of diplomacy? Don't you see that diplomacy is not working? I'm very much against it, totally against this. I still believe in the efficiency and the functionality of diplomacy. We know that, so many people have been doubting this, have been raising concerns about this and questions. But my understanding is that it's highly needed. Look at Egypt, what Egypt has regarding this.
We want to link what Egypt is doing diplomatically with the updates of what's happening on the ground actually in these places. And you mentioned Libya. So, okay, so let's start with Libya. Now, the president received recently the commander-in-chief of the Libyan National Army, the Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar, and he also had earlier received Libyan Prime Minister Abdelhamid Dibeiba. And so they both came here to Egypt, and Egypt is always involved diplomatically in the Libyan file. How do you see the latest situation in Libya, and how do you see the Egyptian role there in trying to bring calm and stability and unification and you know, territorial integrity and safeguarding the sovereignty of Libya, helping in that regard?
Okay, let me quote you once again, two words. Okay, stability and unification in Libya. And these two words to me are, you know, at the heart of everything regarding, okay, the Libyan quest, you know. Because Libya, on one hand, I think it's a direct goal, okay, before the eyes of some powers in the world. Okay, by the way, Libya, everyone knows that, okay, economically speaking, Libya is one of the richest African countries.
It used to be.
Okay, used to be. Okay, and, okay, to some reasons, for some, actually, you know, whatever causes, I think, you know, some powers in the world, they don't want Libya to be back once again. So, the different rivals.
And they still have all the resources, by the way. I'm sorry, yeah. They still have all the resources. So
yeah, of course.
If they stand on their feet, if they find back...
If they're back on track,
yeah.
Economically, of course, they play much more active role in the, okay, overall economy of the continent. But what I'm trying to say that, okay, that the latest movements in Libya, okay, despite the fact that prior to that, everyone recalls this, okay, that it was kind of stable a little bit, okay, not 100% stable, relatively stable.
So what's happening now? I mean, a lot of people don't understand. What is exactly happening now?
What's happening in Libya now is that, okay, that some deliberate action to ruin the whole process of unification. Because, okay, in other words, okay, when you see actually things going back on the right track, as I've just said, okay, some countries or some powers not wanting Libya to be stable once again, they would interfere in a way or another just to actually set fire in some place, or actually, you know, put explosives in another place, attacking you a third place, and then, okay, different parties would start blaming each other. And then instead of getting, okay, at one table discussing the whole thing, wanting to go actually reaching that goal of unification, as you said, it's very much the opposite. We go back once again to the battlefields, okay, you know, the direct encounters and confrontations, and we ruin everything. And then we go back to, okay, square number one, or square zero, in other words. And that's what's been going on the last couple of weeks in Libya.
So who's messing around in Libya?
Okay, external forces, and there are, okay, some actually internal forces as well. Okay, because you'd find actually, you know, different movements and different, you know, okay, that powers in the region and outside, okay, of the Middle East, okay, wanting to take advantage of the riches of Libya behind closed doors, okay. They don't want to actually tell everyone, okay, or anyone in the world that, okay, they want to take advantage of the economic, you know, capabilities of Libya. Okay, so what's been going on in Libya, in simple words, is that, okay, that very much there's some power, they want to take Libya in a totally different direction to blow up
some powers from within the region and some powers from outside of the region?
Yeah, definitely. From the region and outside of the region. Why that? Because, you know, Libya is, okay, you know, one heavyweight economic power in the powerhouse, you know, in the region. Okay, and you know, in other words as well, I want only not to highlight the economic significance of Libya, but strategic importance of Libya as well, especially the southern regions of Libya. By the way, most people, they focus mostly on the northern regions of Libya, you know, the coastal areas of Egypt, but most of the time we ignore the southern regions, okay, of that country. However, strategically speaking, southern regions of Libya are really crucial, especially when we consider, you know, the Sahel, the area, you know, Chad and other countries, you know, the interlocking countries in this region. So strategically speaking, Libya is very crucial.
Absolutely.
Okay, Libya is very potential at the same time. The future of Libya if that country gets the stability, I think that would be really, really great.
And the southern, especially eastern parts of Libya definitely affect Sudan, which is another hot spot in the region, and where Egypt, we're just going to try to scroll through and look at the Egyptian diplomacy and give the updates and see the latest happening in each of these hotspots. And really, I said in the introduction, unfortunately, the region needs no more hotspots. I mean, it's full of hotspots. I mean, it's too much, really, actually. So, Sudan, where Egypt, of course, its position is very clear. It it supports the national institutions. It supports the Sudanese army. It is against any militias, any parallel institutions. It is against any, like the rapid support forces and what they're doing, the war crimes they're doing in Sudan. We recently heard, and of course it's for the territorial integrity of Sudan. We read recently that there were some defections from the RSF in Durman. And we also read like conflicting reports of tit-for-tat violence occurring every now and then, and the humanitarian situation is still very dire. What else can we say about Sudan at the moment? What is the latest happening? What is the road towards stability there? And how is Egypt trying to push for that?
I think there is much to be said about, Sudan. Let me start from the humanitarian crisis in Sudan, because that's one of the most important things that Egypt has been focusing on. Because actually we're talking about human beings suffering, whatever the reason. Well, I'm not discussing the reason for now, let's put it aside, the reason, because that's something else. But I'm discussing the human crisis in that neighboring country. Yeah, and our brothers and sisters in Sudan have been suffering for a long time now, for years, and we need to put, an end to all of this agony, the suffering of those people, innocent people in Sudan. Because, and once again, let me try to answer you, in your question at the outset of the question, because we were discussing Libya and we moved from Libya to Sudan,
yes.
Again, it's about, the foreign interference in Sudan. Again, another potential country, which is Sudan. And Sudan is a very rich country, economically speaking. Used to be, grammatically speaking, totally agree with this. However, I'm talking about this country is very, very important. Not only in terms of stability to our country, which of course is I think that's a very legitimate concern on our side as Egyptians, because actually we're talking about Sudan, and Sudan is a natural extension of our country. Not only brothers and sisters. We used to be one.
Right.
But I'm talking that we cannot, I think it's beyond argument. No one would argue over this, the connection between Egypt and Sudan, and the credibility of Egypt looking into that matter of the Sudanese brothers and sisters. We don't have any agenda regarding Sudan. None of this. That's completely evident. It's very clear. But let me go back to the humanitarian crisis. There are some people in the world, they want to cover up this. They don't want to tell the truth about what's happening in Sudan. And I think even Egyptians, when trying sometime to highlight this other country, they would say, let's focus on the negotiation, whatever. And Egyptians have been always saying that, we're not against negotiation and diplomacy. We want to put an end to that rift between the different groups, conflicting groups in Sudan. But priorities. Egypt has been saying that that our first priority now is the humanitarian disaster in Sudan. Those people, for example, provide them the supplies and whatsoever, the medical aid, whatever needed over there. It's very, very essential.
Yeah, it has been described as the biggest humanitarian catastrophe in the world.
Yeah,
by scale. I mean, of course, the Gaza situation is horrible, and is worse. But if we talk about the millions, the million, because the population there is much bigger than Gaza.
Statistically speaking.
Yeah,
in a statistical manner, of course.
Yeah.
I'd like actually to add something else, regarding your question about the humanitarian crisis in Sudan. Once again, we would see very clearly that the coverage and the difference of media coverage regarding this, and why not, especially when it comes to some countries in the world, why aren't you talking, that in a very extensive way, or as extensively as needed about the humanitarian crisis in Sudan. Okay, in my mind, some countries, the way they want to justify maybe one party over another, supporting one party over another. And I think Egyptians, okay, it's not about, okay, supporting A against B or B against C. No, it's much more crucial. Okay, I think Egyptians, and the Egyptian administration, they set one thing, before their eyes. It's about, okay, the stability of that country, not the unity, okay, and not to dismantle. Because if Sudan turns into a failed country, the shock waves we cannot imagine. If that country, and by the way, we have been seeing, for example, one thing I'd like to highlight, which is, of course, okay, it's one thing in terms of what statistics, figures. However, on the other hand, it's very deep, the issue of refugees. Okay, we've been seeing the situation. People who would like to say that, okay, let's focus on this, on that. Okay, I'd like actually to focus on this single issue, which has been playing very active role, okay, not only to Egypt, I think across the region itself. By the way, okay, Europeans have been talking about Sudan and have been talking about the refugees and the humanitarian crisis in Sudan, because it's very crucial not only to Egypt. So the issue of refugees in Sudan is very, very important and needs to be settled as soon as possible. And we've been seeing Egyptians very much welcoming our brethren from Sudan into Egypt, despite the fact that, okay, of course, we know about the economic situation in our country, but we haven't said no, and we will not say no to anyone coming from our, actually, our, countries, brothers, sisters, across the Middle East. However, let me go back to the humanitarian, actually, issue. The humanitarian issue directly connected to the issue that we raised before about the, the different parties, different...
Again, some forces from within the region and some external forces
definitely
from outside of the region are also messing around.
And now, okay, I think we have noticed that
they all have their agents inside.
Exactly, and now we have seen, Libya, okay, of course, despite the fact that they have their own case, their own factors, own details, okay, but they have some similarities if we compare the situation, okay, as we compare Sudan and Libya, because of the external powers and internal powers trying to mess around with the whole thing because they have their own agendas. Okay, once again, my understanding goes like what, okay, as you said once again, okay, about unification. Unification in Libya, unification in actually Sudan, because sometimes we wonder, is it only about, some people wanting to have like the upper hand, wanting to rule the whole thing without being, opposed or actually getting into any sort of argument with. So my understanding about Sudan, once again, by the way, okay, since we are talking about Sudan, Jan of this year, we had a summit about Sudan here in Egypt, led by, okay, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Badr Abdul Ati, and we got the different factions. And this is very crucial. Let me actually draw attention to the viewers to something else, since we are talking about, okay, the diplomacy of our country. Okay, these summits in Egypt, holding such summits in Egypt, to get the different factions from these countries, when they see different conflicts, have been very frequent in Egypt, in Cairo. We have seen this, okay, regarding the Palestinian factions, okay, Libyans, okay, Sudanese, because they know that, okay, that country, like Egypt, is very much critical.
And there is almost a daily activity, diplomatic activity from Cairo to Khartoum and from Khartoum to Cairo, almost daily, either a visit or a phone call or some sort of envoy coming here, like the Mossad Boulos, the U.S. Diplomat in charge of the Middle East and Africa affairs and the U.S. The State Department. And so there is, again, regarding Sudan, there is almost daily a monitoring of the situation and an attempt by Egypt, which, as you said, Dr. Momtaz, I think it's a very nice and expressive statement when you said that Egypt simply has no agenda. Egypt wants just, the peace and safety of the Sudanese people, the safety and security of the Libyan people. It is unlike many, many, many other forces in the region or outside of the region. It doesn't have any hidden agendas. It just wants prosperity and peace for these people, for their neighbors.
Definitely, and let me thank you for actually mentioning United for America and their envoy to the Middle East. Okay, because United for America has been actually directly coordinating with Egypt regarding this, because we've reached that level of that United for America, trusting us to the level that they say, go ahead, do it. Okay, go ahead, do such summits, and even they directly, they keep in touch with the Egyptian actually administration regarding this, okay, that, because they know for sure that about the credibility and the heavy weight of, Egypt regarding this. And let me go back to unification and getting the different factions, together. What is so crucial about this? Okay, by the way, when we look at the situation in the Middle East and you find the different conflicts, once again, as I said at the outset of the talk, diplomacy is the only path to stability. You cannot make it without diplomacy. That's why, factions would come and get at one table and sit and discuss whatever they want, because we need to reach a compromise. We need to have like a middle ground, all of us standing, and understanding that's the only path. Because if we keep on doing this, let me give a simple example, yet a very dangerous one. Situation in Libya, if it has been deteriorating like this and continues like this, for actually 5, 6 years, 10 years ahead. What about Sudan? We don't actually get the fact that it's not only dangerous to the Sudanese people, to the Libyan people, it's the entire region. And actually, thank you again for mentioning the domino, effect. Domino effect is very dangerous. We want to see stability in the region. We need to work. Egyptians have been working hard, and it's very evident, but I need to work harder, and that's why you mentioned in the first question about, the ongoing and non-stop actual reception, and we receive this, and we make this phone call, because we believe it's very urgent. And this is something else I'd like to highlight, the urgency of the situation. Egypt has been doing this for a long time now, because we have felt, day one, and I think that dates back to 2011 once again. We've been seeing this, and we've been seeing the situation in the sense that, it's getting worse. We can see this. And by the way, something else I'd like to highlight, which is very much connected to what I'm saying, it's like alarming everyone. I still recall the last 10 years, and even before the 10 years, since 2011. And then we've been actually warning everyone, we don't want to go into that direction. And that's not only rhetorical thing, It's not about, some word that you would get to the podium and you get a mic and start talking about. No, I'm talking about something else. We mean it. We mean it, because we get how dangerous it is. We, felt the urgency back then, starting 10 years ago, and we still feel the urgency, because actually we're seeing the future. As I said, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what will become of the region 5 years from now?
It is really very sad to look around the region and to discover that it is easier to find a spot where there is a crisis or a problem, than it is to find a place where, peace and security and safety prevails. If we stay in the geographical area we were talking about, so let's go to the Horn of Africa. Let's go talk about some countries that are trying to mess with the security of the Red Sea, or with the flow of the waters of the Nile River. And this is another urgent issue, and there is an urgency here, especially for Egypt. The dams that are being built, projects of new dams that are planned to be built on the Nile River, and so let's talk about that hotspot as well. Because it's a challenge. It's yet another challenge for Egyptian diplomacy. Again, Egypt always wants peaceful solutions, always, and looks for diplomatic settlements. But this is something that is very vital to its interests. So,
okay, geographically, so of course, okay, that maybe some people would say, okay, why being concerned about something happening in the Horn of Africa or, okay, the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, okay, I think it's very dangerous, okay, as you have said, for example, that, okay, we're talking about the River Nile. Okay, is that negotiable? I'd like to ask everyone in the world, because I think most countries, especially when it comes to the main power, the key players in the world, okay, they get that. They understand the Egyptian stance on this. They get, okay, you talk about an existential threat to Egypt. Okay, I think, okay, no one would need us to explain how important it is. Okay, do we really need to explain how important water is to Egypt? Okay, 110 million people, 95% of them, they rely on the water coming from the River Nile. That's it. Okay, period. Okay, it's very clear. So when talking about this and when talking about some threats from some countries, you know, on the River Nile, trying to build whatever they want to build across the River Nile.
It's one country. It's one country.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, so, and they want now, they've been talking about building other dams across the River Nile. Okay, so the question, the main question, once again, okay, because we've been talking about this, okay, we are not against any country in the continent trying to get developed. Development is the key right to any country. Okay, we're not against, wholeheartedly supporting this. However, when trying to harm other countries, when trying to get actually your country developed, that raises so many questions. Okay, why that? Because Egypt always has been asking, and this is very clear. Anyone can go back to the documents, you know, the meetings, and I think it's for the last 15, 16 years, especially the last 10 years, namely the last 10 years. Okay, namely, specifically, starting 2014, we've been very clear. Okay, that's what we want is fair treatment. We need actually, you know, and by the way, we always bring up the issue of international law. We've been actually sticking to this. Okay, and nothing wrong. And that's, I think that's the logical and legitimate, okay, you know, background, you know, that's the main actually thing that we are actually discussing. Okay, you think accordingly, if you're not actually weighing in or assessing this situation according to international, what other things that you actually may assess it accordingly? Right. That's the only thing, you know, the international. The problem to me, because I've been following the situation very closely for the last 10 years, 12 years now, that whatever we want to bring up, okay, the international law, and we want to, okay, you know, build any sort of discussion according to or abide by international law, some other country, they would say, okay, but you know what? You're taking back to something else. Okay, no, we have some other issues, and we're not against anything. But we need to have a common ground, you know, to start off. Where is that kind of thing? Where is the launching pad? We need to agree on the launching pad, because I still recall that we take some steps.
So how do you see that situation unfolding, Dr. Momtaz, that specific situation regarding the Nile River unfolding? How do you see it?
Okay, once again, what we've been doing, and I still stick to this, I insist on this, that work, because actually some people have been saying, okay, why actually you're so patient regarding this? Why not taking, you know, like some precise actions?
Yes, this has been raised a lot.
Yeah, of course, okay, and okay, some people, they say, okay, do it, and don't do what? Okay, no one imagines that, okay, whatever action, you're not thoroughly calculating. Because we always do our math before taking any step. And we've been doing this, okay, and we've been, you know, we realize that, okay, you take an action which is not highly calculated, and then you go to any sort of conflict, okay, that the consequences would be really massive. Okay, and that's why we've been actually stressing that what diplomacy, the only path. We want to set at the same, you know, we were talking about Libya and Sudan and the conflicts over there. Okay, and I've said that, okay, the diplomacy is the main solution. And when it comes to the situation regarding, okay, the River Nile, I still insist it's a diplomacy. Okay, because the other options are very dangerous.
Well, we've heard promises from the administration of the U.S. president to help Egypt in this regard. Have we seen any of this unfold?
Okay.
Is it happening and we don't, behind the scenes, and maybe we're not aware?
Yeah, I really like what he
it?
said, because actually there are some action being taken and then in front of cameras and if people talk about, but behind closed doors, okay, that United States of America, they have their own leverage. They have their own tools, and they can pressure countries across the world, directly or indirectly, visibly or invisibly. Okay, so politically or in a non-political actually manner or way. So they've been working on this. And to me, one of the most crucial things regarding this, that what they get that we are right. We're not in the wrong regarding this. And I think that plays a very significant role. Once again, okay, I know some people takes patience in the wrong way, or they don't truly actually get this. However, time has proven that no. And let me give an example, if you don't mind. I'd like to go back to Libya. Okay, we still recall, okay, the Turkish situation a couple of years back. Okay, and I need people to look at the Turkish situation nowadays. Okay, and it's all because of that. Okay, yeah, it took them some time, but now they have realized that the Egyptian stance has been positive, has been legitimate, has been accurate. And I think,
speaking of Turkey, you are moving. I mean, okay, so you did the what? The compass. I mean, I'll take your compass. I'll take your compass. You said about, speaking of Turkey, and you said about Egypt. Egypt always does its math, and there are a lot of interconnected things here. So Egypt is doing its math about whether to join the Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Pakistan trilateral defense pact, right? It's
Mecca Agreement.
The Mecca Agreement. Egypt said it will study this thoroughly, and that there are legislative and legal dimensions, that this will be studied thoroughly. Egypt always does its math. Yet Egypt, at the same time, which talks to Egypt is part of the R4, along with Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan, and the quadrilateral group meets regularly and continues to meet. So that was the part of the math, that Egypt does its math. You mentioned Turkey, so I want to move on to Syria, if you will allow me. And of course, the one major disruptive element in our region. Because we still want to talk about the Palestinian cause, Iran, of course, maybe Lebanon and Yemen if we have time, but I want to speak about Syria. We don't talk about it much, but there is a development that really is kind of scary a little bit. We saw Israel, the element we were mentioning, striking Idlib. Idlib, that's in the far north of Syria, and that almost borders Turkey. We all know about Turkey's role in overthrowing al-Assad. Everybody knows about that. And we all know about what's happening in southern Syria and the Israeli violations against Syrian lands in the south, Suwayda and others, and the strikes that they are doing, that are conducting at will, whenever they want, wherever they want. In fact, Damascus was hit. I think the defense ministry in Damascus was, the headquarters was hit a few months back, and now Israel has gone as far as to hit Idlib, and we are hearing some rhetoric coming from Tel Aviv, from the Israeli war crime suspect prime minister, from his defense minister, from the Israeli army chief of staff, some rhetoric against Turkey that is really, I mean, they are looking for a fight. I mean, it seems that Israel wants to pick its newest fight. Your comment.
Okay, I believe they're sending out an explicit message to Turkey. Okay, attacking Idlib. Okay, because, it's been, that's not the first time. Actually, that's the first action, Israel attacking the northern regions of Syria. However, before, if we look at the situation and what Israel has been doing and has been saying, okay, about Turkey the last, I believe, 6 months or a year now. Okay, no, it's different. Okay, especially with Egypt and Turkey, okay, coming and joining forces and becoming on the same page. I think that's pretty alarming to Israel. They don't take it at ease, you know, they don't feel that's what, wow, that's okay. Okay, so I think in my mind, especially when it comes to Mecca agreement as well, you know, by the way, you know, Sir Mecca has been praising Mecca agreement.
Yeah, yeah.
On the other hand,
is that
Israel,
surprising to you?
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
I don't know. What's surprising to you?
When it comes to Mr. Donald Trump, I'm not surprised. But when it comes to the old guard in the United States of America, okay, the old school, no, they wouldn't agree and they wouldn't support this. But since we are talking about a very pragmatic man called Mr. Donald Trump, he sees the situation differently. He sees that, okay, collaboration helps, you know, the Middle East and the whole region. Okay.
And we understand that he has a great relationship with the Turkish president. That's what we understand. He praises him like publicly day in and day out, and there is reciprocal like respect between the two men. That's what we understand. And we also understand that there is some sort of like friction now between Mr. Trump and Netanyahu. I don't know.
I do not believe, you know, it's you know, I think it's being propagated, kind of. This is kind of propaganda because they want to actually put it in a kind of a certain way, like what, you know, it's what two democratic leaders exchanging views. And actually, you know, I don't believe it myself. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And what I want to say, yeah, of course, they have their own differences.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't, I don't want actually people to take it that far, and they would rely on this heavily. In
why is Israel doing this now?
Okay, now once again,
I mean, you mentioned a factor, okay.
Okay,
why else?
Reasons.
Does it have to do anything with the elections?
Okay, of course, okay, but I get back to elections if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, definitely, I think last couple of years, okay, especially I think last 2 or 3 years, they've been the situation in actually, you know, Egypt and Turkey. They
don't like the strengthening of ties between Egypt and
they've been seeing
Turkey.
what, okay, that the whole situation is improving between Egypt and other countries in the region. They don't like it either. So, and then when it comes to the elections, I think that's a very crucial point or issue in the seeing and evaluating and assessing the whole thing. Why that, okay, leftist, okay, and rightist, you know, the two groups in what, okay, in Israel. Rightist, okay, the different radical groups, you know, in what, okay, in Israel, they need to be fed something, okay, because actually it's on the rise. Some radical movements are on the rise, you know, in Israel. And of course, as the election is nearing and Mr. actually Netanyahu doesn't want to actually leave his office, you know, and he's fighting very, very vigorously actually not to do that.
Yeah.
I think, you know, that proves more or less that what election has been playing a very significant role in this. So he's trying more or less to satisfy some radical voices. And of course, we've been seeing this since October 7th. In the cabinet, in the Israeli cabinet, there are some very radical members in the cabinet. And my issue is that these voices have been so vocal against, you know, the whole region. And I wonder, even, you know, Europe and United States of America have been very much against such voices. And even, you know, some European leaders have been mentioning such leaders in the government, Israeli government, by name.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, the situation between Israel and Turkey is very, very critical. Turkey has been dealing with this in a very delicate way. They don't want any sort of escalation because they want to actually keep the whole region, you know, in a certain situation, not to escalate, you know, not to push the whole region in the direction.
Turkey has shown restraint.
Yeah, definitely.
And even today as well. I mean, the statements coming from Ankara are showing a restraint.
Okay, and then, okay, no country in the world, and I have to put it straightforwardly, and Israel knows that, no country in the world, okay, no, in the region wants escalation, except for one country. Okay, it's Israel.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what's been the rhetorical thing coming from Tel Aviv, you know, that's what, okay, we can actually fight, you know, at different fronts.
So are you afraid that the war of words, it's a war of words that exists now between Turkey and Israel will escalate further, or do you think that the Turkish restraint will prevent Israel from further provocations and then things would cool down?
I don't think that neither of them would like actually to do that. Israel, has been talking about Turkey and facing Turkey. I don't think by all measures that that Israel would dare, because actually Turkey is a heavyweight country.
Absolutely.
Militarily speaking, economically speaking as well. And especially as you've said a couple of minutes ago about the good relations, they are good terms. The Turkish and the American actually leaders. So America, I think they will not support actually Israel.
Syria is stuck in the middle here. I mean,
Syria has been stuck, for many years, and not only between Israel and Turkey, it's between Russia as well, so America, Iran, so Syrians, they are, in a very critical situation, and actually it's very, very difficult to me as we see it. It's very difficult to navigate throughout all of this. Very, very challenging to them. But I don't think that's coming, that direct confrontation between these two countries. It's very difficult.
And again, Egypt's position regarding the Israeli violations against Syria are very clear. I mean, it always condemns the Israeli violations inside Syrian territory, and it always calls for, of course, the liberation of Syrian lands and for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Syrian lands. Going from one heavyweight in the region, Turkey, to another, which is Iran, and still talking about the heavyweight that talks to everybody, which is Egypt. Even regarding the Iran situation, it's very obvious that Egypt talks to everybody, including Iran. And we heard the foreign minister, maybe just yesterday, I think, as recent as yesterday, that Egypt is talking to Iran to try to de-escalate the tension in the region. And from day one, Egypt has been talking. Egypt and Iran have been in contact, just like Egypt's in contact with the United States, just like it is even with Israel and with all parties involved. And naturally, of course, above all, its brothers and sisters in the Arab Gulf. How do you see the Iran situation at the moment? The fear is, just from an outside look, that, okay, we're in for a long, icy, cold situation. I mean, we might not see, that's the first impression, we might not see further huge American strikes, and even the Americans have been saying this just as late as today, this Thursday. I heard the Treasury Secretary, Mr. Bessent, saying that it's not likely that there will be a major American military campaign at the moment because the economic sanctions are really strangling the Iranians and it's choking them and so on. And Mr. Trump seems to be very happy with that. And he says there will be a doomsday, a D-Day for the Iranian economy and for the Iranians. At the same time, the Iranians, as we were talking before the show, it seems they like this war of attrition, and they believe that they can always remain steadfast and always remain on their feet and perhaps bring Mr. Trump to his knees once he loses the elections, the midterm elections in November. So do you agree with the perception that we're likely headed to like an icy cold situation that is still not very good because it could erupt at any given time, and the situation in Hormuz is not very nice, and the flow, just see the flow and look at the prices of oil. So, but at least there is no tit for tat, and there shouldn't be big tit for tat violence in the upcoming period.
Okay, I'd like to start from the outset of your question, regarding the Egyptian diplomacy and how we've been dealing with the situation, how being in touch with the Iranian administration or the people in power in Iran. My understanding that I'd like to highlight something which is very crucial, since we're talking about Egyptian foreign policy and diplomacy. We still recall that a couple of years from now, let's say 15 years back or whatever, how was it like, the situation between Iran and Egypt? I need everyone to go back and check it out, not me. Go back, check it out, how was it like back then? Nowadays, Iran has realized it, okay? And by the way, a couple of minutes ago, we were talking about, okay, Turkey and Egypt, and the relations now and the understanding, and the high-level, advanced level, okay, of understanding that we have reached, between us and Turkey, and even the strategic living up, okay, this kind of relation to strategic level between the two countries. And I'd like to give another example, close example to Iranians. Now Iranians trust us. Okay, and Iranians actually, we've been, like calling each other, exchanging views regarding the situation in the Middle East. And this is, I don't want actually people to take it lightly. This is, I think that's a breakthrough, diplomatically speaking, on our side. By the way, yeah, we talk about this and actually in different questions, whatever, because we take it for granted. But diplomatically speaking, that is a breakthrough on our side. And credit goes to Egyptians, okay, on this. That's not easy. That a country, okay, heavy, by the way, Iran is not a lightweight country, it's a heavyweight one, okay. However, when we see that kind of, understanding nowadays that we have reached, this is actually very crucial, and that proves for sure that how successful the Egyptian diplomacy is. No one can deny this. But when it comes to the situation between North America and Iran, again, I'd like to go back to Israel. Because Israel dragged the United States of America into this swamp. That is a muddy swamp to the Americans. Okay, of course it's not, I wouldn't compare it to Vietnam or whatever, no, but I'd like to say that, okay, Americans got into that war, and now they don't know how to get out. It's about the exit, and actually that's the thing that some European leaders have been warning Mr. Trump up. By the way, they've been telling him, like I think former British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, as he refused first to get actually involved in the war, he said that, okay, wow, why would you go to war? You don't know how to exit, you don't know. And actually, I think what I see now, United States of America, by the way, since we were talking about the
This is a very unpopular war in the United States, and the American public is totally against it, and Mr. Trump has the lowest rating, I believe, of any president at times of war.
Definitely.
Historically.
Okay, and by the way, since we're talking about the domestic affairs in the United States of America, that takes us, remember we were talking about elections in Israel, elections in the United States of America, it's coming, it's in November.
Right.
In a couple of months from now. And of course, as we hear talk about public opinion, and of course public
opinion. And the amazing thing is that even many people, Dr. Momtaz, and you know more than I, in the far right and in the MAGA movement, have come to oppose this war. And have come to the belief and conviction that yes, it is Israel that fooled Mr. Trump and dragged him into this war, making him believe it's going to be a piece of cake.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, everyone, you can actually, listen to the hearings. You see the hearings, congressional hearings. It's very obvious. Even congressmen, they attack the administration directly, and actually, they attack Israel, not only the American administration. It's actually, they blame Israel. They say, why when we went to that war? Okay, it's not a war.
They finally have come to realize that they are being manipulated by Israel, that the strongest country in the world is being manipulated by Israel. They've finally come to this conviction. And just listen to the great Tucker Carlson. Just listen to him.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and that I think has started, since October 7th, by the way.
Yeah.
People have been, realizing, I would say, this kind of realization is very crucial in the United States of America. Okay, yeah, it started from younger generation, but then moving up little by little to leaders.
Again, you are guiding us, Dr. Momtaz. So since you mentioned October the 7th, so let's move to the issues related to the just Palestinian cause. But before we leave that, are we going to see like an icy cold stalemate now in the standoff, or do you foresee anything else?
Okay,
the Iran.
My feeling that according to the latest actually reports, United States of America, as you said, they want to choke Iran economically speaking. And then my understanding, despite the fact that it hasn't been revealed, but I think intelligence, the different intelligence, communities in North America. They have been reporting back, that's my guessing, I don't have fixed specific info about this. They have been reporting back to Mr. Donald Trump that the economic situation in Iran is deteriorating really fast. Okay, yeah, Iranians have been denying this, but the statistics, the figures coming from Iran about the unemployment, hyperinflation are very staggering, very shocking. And I don't think to any economy in the world they can continue like this for a couple of years. They won't be able to do this unless they get help. Unless they get help, and that's very crucial. And that's why Mr. Donald Trump has been warning all countries in the world, never ever do that.
Or you'll be punished
exactly, because he gets it. Okay, he gets that, okay, you punish them, you strangle them economically, okay, that would be, okay, crucial, and it would actually get to the point, okay, get them on their knees in the near future, provided they don't get help.
Maybe he will legislate some newer tariffs for them or something for these would-be countries. Is it, by the way, is it the Hormuz Strait or is it the Trump Strait at the moment? Because we are confused. Mr. Trump said he plans to declare it American territory. So has he declared it? I mean, is it still Hormuz or is it Trump Strait or?
Okay, my mind, no one's.
Okay.
And that makes it actually very dangerous. Why that? Because everyone has been claiming. They've been making claims here and there. But, okay, the problem with that, it's still dangerous. Strait of Hormuz has been very dangerous. Iranians have been saying, yeah, we are in control. Americans, on the other hand, have been saying, no, it's us. We've been actually organizing the whole situation in the Strait. The problem, the key issue is that, is it safe enough to navigate the Strait of Hormuz? No. Is it actually, is it dangerous? Yes, it's yes.
Obviously, because the flow in the Strait is not...
So, as long as it hasn't been secured, so it's no one's. Okay, it's like back in the World War I, we call it no man's land.
I like your answer. Anyway, Iran and Oman are talking. Have they reached a deal about Hormuz?
Okay, officially no.
Okay.
Okay, maybe.
And Mr. Trump threatened to bomb Oman again.
Yeah, because he has seen actually the approach, that the negotiation between Iran and Oman regarding this.
Going well.
So he's been concerned, despite the fact that a couple of weeks ago he was praising Oman.
Right.
I think we still recall this.
So once they were very close to reaching a deal, or he realized that they reached the deal, Oman is now like
Oman
a bad thing.
Because, to Mr. Donald Trump.
You cannot agree with Iran. Because it's not your strait. It's not the Strait of Iran and Oman. America has to be there as well.
Exactly. And then, Oman actually needs to
coordinate. And this is why you're saying it's no one's.
No one's.
Okay. I really like that answer. So, again, the Americans, many of them who have realized that Israel did fool the strongest man in the world and the strongest administration in the world into getting into a war that seems to be very hard for them to exit from. Also, the American public has realized, and we've seen from the polls, many polls, consistently, that what Israel committed in Gaza is a genocide, and that there are more now Americans sympathize with Palestinians than Israelis for the first time in history. And I have also seen Israel kill their own in the West Bank. I mean, Israel has killed Americans in the West Bank. And one of them is a very well-known case. His name was Saifullah Kamal. He was killed in the West Bank, in an area called Al-Mazra'a Al-Sharqiyya, or the Eastern Farm. And many in America are asking for, retribution, but the Israeli authorities are not holding anybody accountable. And the American ambassador in Israel, Mr. Huckabee, according to many in the American media, is doing nothing about it.
He's a very supporter of actually Israel. Everyone knows Mr. Huckabee actually is not, an objective, ambassador, unfortunately. But let me actually, start from a different
So aside
place.
from killing 70,000 Palestinians, or 70 or 80,000...
Now it's what they are turning to the West Bank.
I mean, in the West Bank. The settlers are,
they've gone crazy now.
Gone crazy in the West
They do whatever
killing
they want.
everybody, including Americans.
Yeah, let me actually clarify something. I think Americans know it by heart, that, settlers are not acting in a vacuum. They've been supported by the Israeli army. You know, Americans know this. Okay, and you know, no matter, you know, how frequent, you know, the Israeli government, you know, denies this or says no, we know this. You support them, and that's why settlers have been doing this. However, the escalation for
under
the last
protection, of course, of the Israeli army. I mean, obviously.
Of course, definitely. But the escalation that's been seen, been observed the last couple of years since October 7th, once again, I think, you know, and even, you know, according to statistics, you know, it has never been seen for the last 30 years or 35 years. So, meaning, in other words, okay, and I think that is a critical question that we should ask, is that what is the main goal? What is the main target? For example, Egypt has been saying Area E1, you know, Area E1, it's okay, Eastern...
Yeah, ABC, right?
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, that American citizen, American Palestinian, American citizen, he was born in America, was killed in Area A.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm talking about, okay, that even, you know, they have their own vicious plan to dismantle, to break down the whole thing about, okay, the West Bank, because once again, let me emphasize it again and again, they know that the West Bank is the main thing when it comes to the establishment of the state of Palestine.
So Israel is annexing the West Bank. It says it is not,
definitely.
And America says, no, you cannot, but what's happening on the ground is it is annexing it and killing people inside it.
Definitely.
Even America.
And even, you know, okay, the Prime Minister, Netanyahu, okay, has said, you know, no, I'm very much against the, you know, the establishment of the state of Palestine.
Doesn't it surprise you that the U.S. administration is doing nothing about this, about their own citizens that are being killed at the hands of the Israeli forces in occupied Palestine?
Let me give an example, a historical one.
Some of them Christian, by the way, not only Muslims.
Yeah. Okay, late 1960s, Israel attacked an American warship. You know?
Yeah.
And Liberty.
The Liberty, yes.
Yeah. And till today, by the way, they've been investigating the whole situation. And why actually covering up?
But of course, Egypt is involved diplomatically very heavily. His Excellency, the President, received Mr. Trump's envoy, Jared Kushner, recently here. Egypt wants to advance the Trump peace plan for Gaza, that we want to move to the second phase. We want to, but Israel has publicly, and its war crime suspect prime minister has publicly rejected the plan. So where do we move from here? And again, is this rejection, does it have to do with the elections? And from now until the elections in October in Israel, what do you see for, this is the final question, what do you see for the issues related to the occupied Palestinian territories? And what would happen if we have a new government in Israel? What would then the Gaza peace plan look like, or have a chance, not have a chance? What do you expect that government would look like? Will it get rid of the far-right extremists, those who apply terrorist policies? I know it's three questions in one, but hopefully I haven't confused you.
Yeah. Okay. I think Israel now in a very critical situation. What I'm afraid of, election, by the way, is crucial. But what I'm afraid of is, you know, the greater dream. Greater Israel dream, okay, that very alarming project. Okay, my main concern that Israel, okay, like Mr. Donald Trump, they still have that kind of dream on their minds. Okay, and that's very alarming, and that, of course, that has to do with the election as well, because they will be addressing and targeting what the far right, once again. This is very critical. And okay, regarding the question, you know, if we get another government, what kind of government? If we get another leader, who would guarantee that it wouldn't be harsher and more extreme?
Really?
Okay.
Is that a possibility?
Okay, of course, there is a possibility. Okay, you know,
but isn't the likelihood that we'd have a more moderate?
Okay, hopefully that's our hope, and that's why we need to pressure United America. I insist that countries should actually, you know, pressure United America to do something about it.
Do you think Trump will help Netanyahu in the elections, or will go against him, or will just, you know, stay on the sidelines? Okay,
he would help Mr. Netanyahu. However, he would help him on Mr. Trump's terms.
Okay. Which are?
Which are, okay, they would do whatever he wants anytime, and he would listen. okay, to Mr. Donald Trump.
Including the Gaza
Including
plan
including Gaza.
Okay. It's now Gaza plan for peace. It's not a Riviera, right?
No, it's not. Again, it's on paper,
Okay.
it's not.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Milad Momtaz. Always a pleasure to have you with us. That was Dr. Milad Momtaz, the Professor of International Relations, with us here in the first segment of Nile Oracle. We'll still have a very dear, distinguished guest with us in the studio to come up shortly here with us, and we'll be talking about Egypt's economic diplomacy, the economic element of Egypt's balanced foreign policy. Please don't go.